A sequence is just a series of shots that help to tell the story. A very common way to build a sequence is to start with a wide angle that establishes the location. It's called an establishing shot. In this case, you can see we started with Ivanhoe, and then we've moved inside to what's clearly a television studio. You've seen this shot before in a previous video. Then as the sequence develops, we'll just move in closer and closer to help the visual images do a couple of things. First, they'll help us identify who's talking at the moment, and second, they'll help to build the emotion or the tension underlying the scene. This is a pretty formulaic, straightforward approach to building a sequence here. This has the three characters having a conversation inside a TV studio. You may have noticed I chose to use a dissolve between the exterior cut and the wide shot inside the studio, and again between the wide shot in the studio and the shot just of the characters on the set, because both of those are sort of a transition in location. We're moving from the outside of the building into the studio where we see the entire environment, and then we're moving out of that context into whatever the talk show is featuring these three characters. Let's take a look at a couple of examples from Hollywood movies using this structure of building a sequence, starting with the establishing shot and then drilling down into the level of the characters.
I will give you £100 to save this man's life.
Madame, I would pay £100 just to see him hang.
£200.
Proceed.
£300.
Any last requests, pig?
Yeah, loosen the knot and let me go.
Yeah, man. Of course we don't let him go.
£500.
Wakaf andak. And what else? I'm a very lonely man.
So we start with the wide shot. There's camera movement that brings the characters all into alignment, which is just beautiful for a cheesy horror comedy movie. Now we've got a nice medium establishing the two characters talking. Series of over the shoulders here. We go back to a wide shot to establish where the victim is on the gallows. And now we're up close for dialogue. And then we're going to flip back to the people in the stands. Again, we have a little transitionary shot a little bit wider here. This is the beautiful over the shoulder too. They play really loose with the 180-degree rule in this scene. By play really loose, I mean they completely ignore the 180-degree rule in this scene, but they do it so consistently that it works.
Hoshidor, tes clepsydras, hypu, hemon, hemerai.
How's it going? I'm Bill. This is Ted. We're from the future.
Socrates.
Now what? I don't know. Philosophize with him. All we are is dust in the wind, dude. Dust. Wind. Dude.
Himes, uten alo, plankoniotos. Phew.
Let's get out of here, dude.
Same thing here. We're starting with a wide shot of Socrates lecturing at some Greek establishment. Maybe it's the Parthenon. It doesn't look like the Parthenon. Anyway, we establish where we are and who the players are. Now, Bill and Ted walk into the shot. There's some lovely camera movement going on here. And then once we start moving into the dialogue, we get these medium close-ups, right? These head and shoulder shots. This is very structured, very rule of thirds as well. But this is simple formula, right? Establishing shot, move in for the closer shots for dialogue, and then they'll get a little bit wider to pick up a three shot, right, when we need to see all three characters interacting with the sand, and Bill and Ted escorting Socrates off the screen. Again, this is just this is formula, right? Wide shot, medium close up, get a little bit closer for the dialogue. Go wide when you need to.
Hey, baby. How was your day? You know, you can tell me things if you need to. Oh, you know what I did today? I won the Pennsylvania lottery in the morning. I quit my jobs. And I ate a big picnic in the park with lots of chocolate mousse pie. And then I swim in the fountain all afternoon. What do you do?
I was picked first for kickball teams at recess. I hit a grand slam to win the game. Everybody lifted me up on their shoulders and carried me around cheering.
In that case, I am going to make you some triangle pancakes. You got an hour.
Hey. Want to sit? Don't feel like talking today? Want to play a game? It's a mind-reading game. Here's how it works. I read your mind. If what I say is right, you take one step towards the chair. If what I say is wrong, you take one step back towards the doorway. If you reach the chair, you sit down. If you reach the door, you can go. Want to play? Okay. When your mother and father were first divorced, your mom went to see a doctor like me, and he didn't help her. So you think I'm not going to be able to help you? You're worried that she said she told him things. Things she couldn't tell anyone else. Secrets. You have a secret, but you don't want to tell me. Your dad gave you that watch as a present just before he went away.
You forgot it in a drawer. Doesn't work.
You keep pretty quiet in school, but you're a good student. You've never really been in any serious trouble.
We were supposed to draw a picture. Anything we wanted. I drew a man. Got hurt in the neck by another man with a screwdriver.
You saw that on TV, Cole?
Everyone got upset. They had a meeting. Mom started crying. I don't draw like that anymore.
How do you draw now?
Draw people smiling, dogs running, rainbows. They don't have meetings about rainbows.
No. I guess they don't.
What am I thinking now?
I don't know what you're thinking now.
I was thinking, you're nice. But you can't help me.
This one's a little bit long, but I just can't bring myself to shorten it. It's so beautiful. So here we are starting with the typical establishing shot. We have a wide enough angle that we can see all the characters and where they are in the living room. And then we start breaking apart into the expected medium close-ups here. Now there's an added dimension of intimacy with the soundtrack here, in that we're hearing the characters whisper. So it's very up close and personal, even though the shot's not terribly close. There's not a lot of dynamic camera movement in this. The camera, for the most part, is very still, with the notable exception of when we get into the mind reading game. But here, at this point, this is all straight up formula, right? We had our establishing shot. We're going in for medium close-ups. We're bouncing around with the subject to help us track what's going on. Right? Not only do we need to see the interaction between the mother and the child, but we need to see the reaction of the doctor. Now we go back to a wide shot as she exits. So we're establishing the context again. This whole sequence is just gorgeous in the way that they use the camera to help support the story. Right? The little boy is keeping his distance, so visually the camera keeps us at a distance as well. As he approaches the doctor, right, as the doctor initially is successful in the mind reading game, the camera takes us with him. So in subsequent shots, we get a little bit closer and a little bit closer and a little bit closer to the doctor, seeing how the boy is approaching him. When he starts to lose the game and the boy starts to retreat, not only does the camera retreat, but it takes us with us. It takes us with it. So we actually see that movement as the boy is stepping backwards. The camera is dollying out, physically making us get farther and farther from the doctor character. This is just gorgeous. I could watch it over and over again, but let's move on. So we've seen one formula for building a sequence. Let's look at what happens if you turn it around. So we effectively reverse the sequence here. We do start with a close-up of the train wheels, which tells us we're on a train, and then we immediately jump into this medium close-up inside the railway car in a series of close-ups before we get to something even resembling a wide shot to give us context. Now this is just a different philosophy, a different approach. The little blackouts give us a hint that time has passed, but again we came back in by starting with a close-up of the train, just the moving parts, the pumping cylinder. Now we're up to this close-up, almost an extreme close-up, of the character's face. Outside the car windows, this whole series of shots that tell us about him, but not about the world yet. So this stands that pyramid on its head, right? If the normal thought is you start establishing, you start at the wide, and then you work your way down to the close-ups, this has literally reversed the process. It starts with the close-up, it starts with an almost meaningless image, and then gives us the context. So the idea with sequence is just that. You're building a sequence of images that help support your story. You can use this as a transition from location or theme. You can use this as a way to help draw us into whatever the narrative is. The common formula is you start with an establishing shot, and then you work your way into greater and greater detail. But as we saw in the Dead Man example, and as we've looked at it several examples during class, Broken Arrow, Resident Evil both come to mind right off the top of my head, you can do it the other way around. You can start with something that's close up, even abstract, which serves as an attention getter as the audience wonders, what is that? And then you slowly expand to show us what the world is, what's going on around it. But either way, you need a development, a course of development here. So it's not just a random series of shots, and it's not just as simple as cutting when it looks cool to cut. You need to think about how does the entire series of shots work together, as well as how does each individual shot work to accomplish its goal.